The Predator franchise. In the last couple of years, it's seen its fair share of success. I'm sure many of you remember the Hulu exclusive Prey. We also have the newly announced Predator Killer of Killers, Predator Badlands, which is newly announced, kind of controversial, and we even, for you hardcore fans out there, have Hanson versus Predator. All right, maybe not Hanson, but what about the other popular franchise that is synonymous? Aliens. They too have seen their fair share of success recently. Romulus was a tremendous return to form for the series. Dark Descent, I believe, launched last year, the year before. Very praised title. But what if I were to tell you a small studio very familiar with the franchise is planning to release a new title this year that could take the Alien franchise to new levels of success? I am your host, Vault Zero, and if you're watching this background gameplay, I'm sure you can kind of already get an idea where this is heading. I am a big fan of Aliens Fireteam Elite, and I know that's a crazy thing to say in 2025. I know the player base is extremely low. I feel like that's an understatement. Um, but for what it is, and at launch, it's a very good game. And dare I say, probably one of my favorite co-op shooter games. And that is why I was thrilled to hear about Project Macondo. And I'm going to put this on the screen and I'm going to read through it at the same time you guys are reading through it. Um, what Project Macondo is it's Cold Iron, the small studio behind Fireteam Elite, and they are working on a sequel. And I am very excited about it. I feel like you guys should be excited about it too. I think if they take what they learned from the original Fireteam Elite, this could be the sleeper hit of the year. So first and foremost, we're going to see up top, we're going to see street date is unconfirmed, but according to these leaks, it is the third quarter 2025. So that means it will launch anytime from August up until December, if this leak is to be believed. And I think this leak is extremely credible. I'll actually put the link down below, but it's got a lot of details. A lot of the leaks that I've seen before don't go into this level of detail. So I think there's obviously with the leak, I always take it with a grain of salt, but I feel like there's some real credence to these claims here. It says Project Macondo is a new chapter in the Aliens Fireteam Elite third-person co-op shooting saga that improves upon the mechanics, atmosphere, and excitement of the original. Obviously, it's going to be available on the platforms that it was on before: PC, PlayStation, Xbox. It says fight through an epic new story campaign with a squad of two AI, companions or live players. Um, it remains to be seen whether this will be cross-play. I think it should be. Whether that will be a launch remains to be seen. But I do know that they eventually added cross-play to the original Fireteam's Elite. If you play it now, you'll play with crossplay. So it wouldn't surprise me if this launches with crossplay, which would be huge for the game. Play as a member of the Dagger Company, a battalion of Spec Op xenomorph hunters, each with unique abilities, weapons, and engage in a diverse array of gameplay scenarios, including NPC interactions, alternate paths, navigational challenges, clue finding, compete with an evolved enemy intelligence and behavior. Challenge yourself in Annihilation Mode, a new spin on Horde Mode with a variety of objectives and encounters. This is something I'm really excited about. I think it would be cool to. Horde Mode was cool before, but it would be cool to have some dynamic events that take place. What I would like to see in terms of dynamic events, it's a long shot, but I would like to see dynamic weather, day night. It'd be a lot of fun to try to engage the Xenos at night. Perhaps we get upgrades like thermal vision, thermal scopes, things of that nature. I would like to see some terrain dynamic events, such as like ruins crumbling, forcing us to change paths, so that not every gameplay or not every session of a annihilation mode is the same. Moving on from there, I'm going to put on screen. We're going to look at the scope, the projected scope of the game. We're going to talk about the features and what they would like what they would like the scope to be for these features. Campaign. they're going to shoot for a minimum of 10 missions with 8 hours of gameplay. And that's just one complaint, one of the two complaints I have about the original Fireteam Elite. Fireteam Elite with the DLC has only 3 or 4 missions per chapter. And I think I did the math yesterday, and that's only about 6.5 hours of gameplay. The ideal scope, they say, for the sequel is 13 missions, 12 hours of gameplay. And that's double the size of Fireteam Elite. If they could pull that off, that would be amazing. Annihilation mode, they at least want one map with one arena, of course. Uh, the ideal scope, however, would be one map with 4 to 6 arenas. So I imagine it would be a large arena with, like I said, dynamic events forcing you to each arena, which is an extremely interesting concept. Enemies, both minimum and ideal, are the same. There is going to be 9 core enemy types, regardless. It's hard to say whether there's going to how many different types of synths there'll be each, how many different types of aliens there'll be each, because there are a lot of variety in both of those core enemy types. When it comes to the dagger characters, which are character kits, they are going to shoot for at least 3 dagger characters, with the ideal scope being 5. I believe there's 7 types of characters at this point at in Elite, but it launched with 5, and 2 were added post-launch. When it comes to weapons, again, there's no wiggle room with weapons. They're going to have 13 weapons total at launch, and then they will add more in post. Now we're going to get into some really exciting stuff. We're going to dig into the key gameplay features, talking about the player kits. So, and unlike FEV, Project Macondo will feature fixed preset character archetypes and non-customizable characters. Each of the 5 playable daggers has a unique signature weapon and has an exclusive set of abilities. Characters can also equip a basic weapon that rounds out their arsenal. So I'm a little disappointed when it comes to that, because that's one thing I really liked was the ability to be able to customize our characters and make them, look like us, however we wanted them to look, imprint on them a little bit. This kind of sounds hero shooter-ish in that kind of realm. So we'll see how that really works out. I don't love that, but what is cool is when we get down to the playable characters. So we're going to start out with the Swift, call sign Artemis, an agile giant slayer with throwing axes and can unleash ninja quick melee strikes. I thought it would be really interesting before if we could get more melee in the game. I know, particularly when you're fighting Xenos, melee is going to be really hard to do unless you're a predator. But it'll be interesting to see how they implement that. Number 2, call sign Atlas, the deadly one. It's being an unstoppable berserker battle mech. So what I assume we're going to see here is the almost like the loader, the iconic loader from the Alien franchise. He's going to be able to use a minigun, a body-mounted cannon, as well as hulking armor to smash through enemies. Call sign Nyx is the silent. The silent assassin uses cloaking device and precision sniping to defeat their foes from afar. Now, I know in AU before, really ranged attacks and snipers didn't make a whole lot of sense when you're fighting the xenomorphs. It really only made sense if you're fighting the synths. So it'd be interesting to see if that changes, because there's so many missions when you're fighting xenomorphs where it's intentional, but you're in such narrow corridors and narrow settings that there's really not going to be that much room, and snipers are going to be pretty much useless. So it'll be interesting to see if we get a more open world or open scenery to do battle with the xenomorphs, and maybe that will expand upon the size of the hordes that we're fighting. Number 4 is call sign of Vulcan, the commander, an inspiring leader who enhances the rest of the squad, quickly revives teammates, and places shields. So that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see whether these are physical shields, energy shields. It sounds like this is going to be more of a support role as opposed to the top 3 damage dealers And this is going to be a mix between what sounds like the Phalanx class as well as the Doc class. Maybe even a mix of the Technician as well. But I think the Technician is more down here in call sign Chirin, the Ranger, a tech specialist who deploys drones that can scan enemies and wears an uplink that shares tactical data with their squad mates. I'm not sure if this is going to make the cut because this is pretty much the recon that is in AFE as it is. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually make the cut. But then we move on to primary weapons. We have the dual pistols, which are an Armament exclusive, miniguns, Atlas exclusive, sniper, Nyx exclusive, obviously, the railgun carbine, which is the Vulcan exclusive, and the dual handguns, which are the Chiron exclusive. I am really excited for dual wield. I think that's going to be pretty cool. We have the pulse rifle, the battle rifle, and the pump shotgun, which are all basic, which can go on any class. Each dagger has their own version of a ability category. They have passive, they have dash, they have melees, specialties, and ultimates. So, like I said, this is kind of going back to that kind of hero shooter-ish feel. Really quick, we're going to fly through the key social features as well as then we'll move on to the last part of these leaks, and then I'll give you my thoughts. So, Project Macondo will not support native in-game voice or text chat, just like AFE didn't. They're going to have to communicate using Steam, Xbox platform social tools. There's going to be no microtransactions, which is exactly as the way the other ones did. They came up with some pretty cool cosmetic packs that you could buy, though. No gotchas, makes plenty of sense. No loot boxes. There will be no advertisements in the game. Thank God for that. There will be no user accounts. Obviously, they're going when it comes to post-launch additions. That's something that's to be decided. I'm going to go over the mission overview for Fireteam Elite 2. I'm going to skip over this first paragraph, but you guys can feel free to pause the screen and read it for yourself. We are going to deliver a very specific player fantasy, being a special forces operator in the Aliens universe. In our game, the player is put in the shoes of a soldier of the Directed Action Group, also known as the Dagger Company, a unit of specialized soldiers tasked with the rapid response to suspected xenomorph activity. The Daggers have a singular goal: the extermination of xenomorph life forms and the rescue of uninfected humans. Forged into a weapon and timbered by fire, the Daggers are humanity's heroic answer to the greatest threat our species has ever faced. Aliens Fireteam Elite 2 is a thrilling, high-stakes blend of grounded military action and hard science fiction ideas. The approach includes a realistic portrayal of military operations, intelligence gathering, and tactics employed by the Daggers as they react to the conditions of the colony. Tension, suspense, and attention to detail, combined with a gritty visual presentation style, will combine to create an authentic military story. Even though these are larger-than-life science fiction things happening, the player should never feel disconnected from the weight and the gravity of what is happening. The emotional cornerstone of the player experience is the relationship between the Daggers and the game's principal NPC, Juliana. As a character with a mysterious connection to the engineers, Juliana's journey will help the Daggers rescue the survivors of the colony and confront the trauma and horrors of the upbringing in the colony. As a psychologically complex character, Juliana's journey will help ground the story and make the stakes feel personal. The commitment and determination of the Daggers and Juliana will allow the players to connect with their struggle and sacrifice. So, personally, you guys make of that what you will, but I am very excited for the game. I think you guys should be excited as well, especially if you liked Aliens and Aliens Fireteam Elite. I think the only things that worry me about this league are the ideas of the hero shooter kind of mentality, kind of aspects that are being injected into the game. There are things that I would like to see from the previous title improved on, such as more content, obviously, is a big thing. And I think the only other thing that I can think of to complain about is, and it's like I explained to someone I know personally, Aliens Fireteam Elite is not a casual game. It's not a game where you can just pick it up and immediately be good at it. It's not a Souls like. It's not that challenging, but it's also, like I said, not casual. So with that, and it's happened to me multiple times. Like I said, the missions are so long; they're 20, 30 minutes. But if you lose, you get nothing. And for a PVE game, that's pretty brutal. And so the one piece of advice that I would give the developers is there should be some sort of um, reward or incentive to play the game even without fear of losing, because it's extremely frustrating to play, an hour and to lose and get nothing. You feel like you wasted an hour of your life. So I feel that I played Fireteam Elite the other night, and I'll go through spells where you'll get matched with bad teammates, or even at higher difficulties, even with good teammates. Uh, the smallest mistake can snowball and ruin your whole run, and which sucks. Like I said, because even if you find like secret caches and whatnot, you don't take that with you if you fail. So it'd be nice to see that the secret caches that you can find um, actually get transferred with you if you lose, or you get checkpoints in the mission, perhaps, and you don't have to start all the way over. Something like that, something to make the gamer's life, the player's life, a little bit easier, especially if you're just picking the game up for the first time and you didn't play the first. But overall, as an Aliens fan, I'm extremely excited to play. Can't wait to jump in. I hope these leaks are true. I hope the game does release by the end of the year. I'm having a blast playing it. If you guys are looking for someone to play with, make sure you leave your gamer tag or whatever your in-game name is down in the comments below, and I will add you guys, and we'll be a tiny community of people who play Aliens and just enjoy playing Aliens. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the stars.